It's the middle of the year, so of course we have to do a mid-year check-in. I've already done my mid-year reset where I just talk about like my productivity for the year, refocusing my goals, and staying on track. But in this video specifically, I'm going to talk about my books, how I'm doing with my reading goal, and how I'm going to go moving forward. So this is the first book that I'm actually tracking my books wholly. I'm tracking the number of pages, I'm tracking the genres, I'm tracking the authors, tracking all the things. And I love that for me. Honestly, I'm really loving the vibe of tracking and keeping track of all the books that I've read, because I can go back and like look at my stats and see where I'm at. So I am going to show you really quickly my tracker. If you're interested in getting this book tracker, it is on sale on Etsy for $1. I will leave the link down below if you're interested. What I track is the title of the book, the author, when I read the book, the number of pages, the genre of the book, my rating for the book, how I acquired the book, the source that I read the book on, if it was on my TBR or if it was a mood read, and that's it. And then I have like little graphs and stuff. So I'll show you little graphs as I talk about them. As of right now, so today is actually July 4th, I have read 49 books for the year. So the goal that I set at the beginning of the year was actually 52 books. I was thinking having one book to read per week was a good number. I never actually before this year had made a reading goal at the beginning of the year saying how many books that I want to read, and I've actually never tracked it fully for the whole year. This will be my first year doing that. So picking 52, I was just like, okay, like one book a week, that sounds reasonable. Like I'm a pretty busy person. I could probably hit that. Well, I'm at 49 and it's already the 7th month of the year. So I'm like, maybe I need to revamp. So then I was like, well, man, maybe I shouldn't revamp. I don't know. But no, I am going to revamp it. I'm actually going to change my goal for the year to 104 books for the year. So that literally gives me double. Like, so at this point, I'm not at this point halfway through the year, I'm not at 52 books, but I'm only 3 books away. So I'm like, okay, it's reasonable to say that for the second half of the year, I can read the same amount that I read the first half of the year. But with a little bit of zhuzh, okay? So just a little bit of stank on it. So we're gonna say 104 books for this year. And yeah, we'll see how I do with that goal. We'll see how I do with it. Each month, on average, I read 8 books a month. The majority of the books that I've read have been romance. Actually, I feel like this is accurate though. Like I feel like I read a lot of romance. Even if you add the category of romantasy into it, it's mainly all I read is romance. I do read a lot of fantasy as well, and nonfiction is decent. That's 12%. So I do like to read at least one nonfiction a month. That kind of keeps me level, keeps me sane, because you're reading all this romance, you kind of live in the land of Delulu, you kind of do. I've read a total of 17,734 pages for the last 6 months, which is great. The majority of my ratings are 4 stars, but I've had 4 5 stars this year. Let's see, what were my 4 5 stars? Oh, Never Seduce a Scot by Maya Banks was the first one. This was actually my first reread of the year. And this story, the plot was just so interesting to me. And that's really why I wanted to reread it. Like the male main character really protects the female main character in the book. And I really liked that about the romance. Let's see, what was another 5 star that I read? Ooh, 2 back to back? Stop it, girl. Okay, yeah. Okay. Another 5 star that I read for the year was Only for the Week by Natasha Bishop. I've talked so much about this book. I feel like this book is just like the epitome of the best Black romance that you can just be a part of and just see and witness. It had just enough drama. It had just enough angst. It had just enough passion for me to just take the 5 star and just rock it. Like we loved it. We loved it. We loved it. We loved it. It was so good. Another 5 star that I had for the year is Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. This book I now have physically, but I did not read it physically when I first read it. I read it on Kindle Unlimited. This is a romantasy about a girl who is human and she goes into these vampire trials and she has to win so she can win power to basically live with her father, who is a vampire, her adopted father, who is a vampire. And so they can just live in a life and have a life together. He convinces her to go into these trials and fight so she can win and have the power to basically just be alive without being a vampire. And like power to be alive, I mean like basically in the book, he's a vampire king. There's always vampires around him. So everybody just wants to eat her, and that's not a good, like she always has to live in fear. So he like, that's kind of what he uses to convince her to go into these vampire games or trials. So I also wanted to go through some of the questions from the mid-year book freakout tag. I think that's what it's called, mid-year book freakout tag. It's basically like about the books that you read in the last 6 months and like how you felt about them, and then it just asks you questions to kind of like pick out specific books. So I liked that aspect of the tag, so I did want to talk about that. So the first question is the best book that I read this year, and it was hard for me to decide, but I'm gonna go with Serpents and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. I almost went with Only for the Week. I mean, that was so good. I can see myself reading that again, but this book I want to reread again right now, like right now. Like Only for the Week, I'm just like, oh, okay, like I could reread that again, but I could also read this other book, romance. And this book, I could reread this book again right now. I literally read, like on the back of the book, it has like a quote, like something that happened in the book, and I'm reading it, and I got all the chills and all the feels and all the feelings of reading the book the first time. I loved this book. This was so good. It was so good. I can't wait to reread this book, honestly. I honestly can't. So I think that, yeah, that sums up my best book for the year so far. Best sequel, I would have to say That Time I Got Drunk and Yeeted a Love Potion at a Werewolf. Okay, so hear me out. And this is by Kimberly Lemming. So this is, I wouldn't really consider it a sequel because it's not really a sequel. It is, what is it? It is a second book in an interconnected standalone series. But going through the books that I read, I only really have read one true sequel this year. When I looked back, I've read 2 sequels this year. This book by Kimberly Lemming just like, it just reaches out to me in just so many other ways. It is about a girl who, she's human, she's in town, there's this guy that's pretty much trying to make her fall in love with him, and he serves her a love potion. She yanks it from him and throws it. He ducks and it hits a werewolf that's across the room, and then the werewolf turns and imprints on the girl. So I just loved that first part of it, just the basis of that story. I just loved that. And then getting into it, it just made me fall in love with Kimberly Lemming. And further on, one of the questions is, who is my new favorite author? And Kimberly Lemming, she takes the cake. Kimberly Lemming, I think she's an auto buy for me. I really do. I want to buy the other 2 books in the series. I only have one. I have this one, which is the first one. That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon. Like when you're just speechless and you want to hug your book, like I just feel like that says a lot. But also Danielle Allen, who wrote, well, her new book this year is Curvy Girl Summer. And then the other book I read by her this year was Work Song. She, after this book, I don't know, she may be an auto-buy author for me, but those are the 2 my favorite authors so far of the year 2024. Good God, I'm putting myself a whole year back. Anticipated new release. Speaking of Curly Girl Summer. So, anticipated new release. Oh yeah, not of the summer, just of the year. So I did buy this book. I pre-ordered it, waited for it to come out, received it in the mail on the day it came out. Honestly, that was the cover for me. And then once I ordered the book, I went back and I was like, well, I need to read something from Danielle Allen, because if I don't like her writing, I need to know, I need to cancel the order, whatever. So that's when I read Work Song, and I loved that book. I loved the story. I thought the title was not titling. Like, I just didn't understand the title at all. But when I read the book, I was like, oh, I'm not a good title person. Like, I couldn't give it a new name, but I just don't think the title went with the book. However, I really enjoyed the book. Yes, I would recommend the book. Yes, I could recommend Danielle Allen. So as of today, I am 60% through this book. When I wrote this list, though, I hadn't started the book yet. So when I went through the list of questions and I picked the book for this section, or current anticipated read, I hadn't opened the book yet. And then within a day and a half, I'm at 60%. It's good. It's also on Kindle Unlimited, which I did not know, but I bought the book anyway because I was just like, I want to support this author. I'm here for it. If you are a girl, a curvy girl or not curvy girl, if you are a woman who want to stay true to yourself through everything, your family may be against you, your friends may be, the general public may not understand who you are as a woman, read one of Danielle Allen's books. just read one. Because even the other book, now that I think about it, had the common theme of this woman, she was strong in who she was. She knew who she was. She wasn't downplaying herself for nobody. She stood on business. And that is what this book gives me. Like, just off first bat, is the confidence to say, okay, this is who I am, and I'm always going to stand by me. I'm always going to be my number one fan. So I might as well just stand up for me. But yeah, so that's the Curvy Girl Summer by Daniel Allen. I'm liking it so far. Okay, so next we're going to go with an anticipated release for the second half of the year. And it is Going Toe to Toe by Yara St. John. So I honestly needed to look through the new releases for the second half of the year, just because I'm not a big author follower. A lot of the times if I'm reading a book by an author, well, a lot of times I'm reading a book, it's just because of the story. I don't follow a lot of authors, or like I've gotten into a series. This is the first year I would even say that I've followed an author, like actively looked for something that is written by a person, but that was only after reading something by them. So because of that, I had to go like look at the new releases for the rest of the year and find one that I feel like I liked, and then I would actually read. And this one is one that I would read because I read The Front of Me Fix Up by Yara St. John earlier in the year, and they are interconnected standalones. So this is basically another story within the standalones or within the friend group. So I am interested in reading this. This is about a dancer, obviously because it's ballerina on the front. And that's all I know. She's one of the friend group. Their group is the Six Gems. They are just, friends, and they hang out, and they're all kind of finding their love interests. So I could see myself reading this book because I did enjoy the previous book. I enjoyed the writing, and it's a book that I would recommend. So it's kind of like me recommending the book to myself, almost. The most disappointing read for the year was The Deer and the Dragon by C.J. Piper, excuse me. I don't know if I could even say that this was disappointing read because I did not finish this book. I did DNF this book. It's the only DNF that I have in the last 6 months. And because there was some God bashing in the book. So basically the book is about a girl who she has this spirit or person that comes to her in the night and talks to her. She gets angry with him and she tells him to go away. After he's missing for a while, she realizes he may have been real, and she does some more deep diving and she finds out that he is the Prince of Hell. Or the King of Hell. I don't know. Something like that. The Prince of Hell. So as she dives into that, like, oh, he's the Prince of Hell. She said for him to go away. That means he can't come back. And now he's missing. She kind of goes on this journey to kind of find him. And in that, like, it's like hell against heaven. And then there's, like I said, then there was some God bashing. And I was just like, well, I'm not reading that. That's not for me. So, yeah, I was like, nah, that's not for me. So I stopped. That's why I stopped reading that book. I feel like that's honestly something that could be put in a trigger warning. And I feel like that should have been like more clear in the synopsis of the book, that this is what we were going to do. Like, it was like heaven versus hell, but I don't know, maybe not. So either way, book wasn't for me. That's all I'm going to say about it. Biggest surprise of the year was this book by Kimberly Fleming. That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon. So the reason why I would say this is the biggest surprise is because I read these books all out of order, and I ate each one of them up. I still wanted to read book 1 after reading book 3 and book 2 first. Like, I am and was fully invested into this series and this world and these people. Fully invested. So this was a surprise for me, just because interest or a lead into a new genre, cozy fantasy. Never before have I ever read anything like this, where it was like a romantasy, but also a rom-com, but also made me laugh. It also made me smile. Like, it was a fantasy, but it was so light. Just never before. So this was a big surprise for me. And it, like I said, opened my eyes to like a whole new genre of reading. And like I said, Kimberly Fleming is one of my favorite authors, or new favorite authors, as well as Daniel Allen. Those are new favorite authors for me that I just read this year, and I love both of them. If they had a book signing, I would go to it, okay? I would want to be there. Book boyfriend for the first half of the year, I would have to say Rain from Serpents and the Wings of Night. And let me tell you why. Hear me out. First of all, I have a vampire thing, okay? If you didn't know, love me a good vampire thing. if I were to fall in love with any mythical character, it would be a vampire, 100%. But Rain was so pushy in the best way to Araya, and he knew that she had more in her than she was willing to show him, and he pushed her to the limit, and then she finally gave like all, and he nothing but fell in love with her at that moment. You know what I mean? Like, it was just so just beautiful, just something I wanted to be a part of, something I wanted to see, something I wanted to read more of. I want to read it again. This book is so good. Rain was just, yeah, he was just everything. He was just everything. And he let her come to him. He knew that he wanted her. He knew. And he wasn't pushy in that sense. Like, he wasn't like, oh, you're going to be mine. No. He was patient. Okay? And he worked hard for her love. He worked hard. That's what I like. That's what I like. He did what he needed to do, and she fell in love with him. So, yeah, Rain. Yep. Yeah. Carissa, find me Rain. Find me Rain. And my new favorite character would be Bree from That Time I Got Drunk and Needed a Love Potion at a Werewolf. I liked Bree because she was like me. She was like me in the sense of like who she was as a person. Like, she was a reader. She was a foodie. She loved to cook. She was there for her family, and I connected really well with her. I connected so well with her, and because of that, that's why she's my favorite character, because I just feel like if I knew her in real life, we would get along. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I liked about her. I also liked how just quirky she was, and she also wasn't for like that insta love. Like, the vampire imprinted on her, so that's kind of like insta lovey, right? And she was just like, no, like, if you're gonna love me, you're gonna prove that you love me, okay? Like, we can't just be out here in these streets just talking about I'm in love all of a sudden. And of course, it was perfectly normal from him because he's a werewolf, but she was just like, we need to make this real, and she gave him a chance. So I really liked that about her as a character. I liked how Kimberly as an author developed her as a character, because she was very almost like not shy to the point where she didn't want her own adventure. She did. Like, she was proud of her friend who went on an adventure, and then she was like, well, I want to find my own place, and I'm going to stand up and I'm going to do what I need to do type thing. So that was exciting to see her as a character do. So yeah, Brie was my favorite. And then her name was just so cute. Like, Brie, like the cheese. Oh, I loved that. There were just so many things about just Kimberly as an author that I just enjoyed. Book that made me cry with This Could Be Us by Kennedy Ryan. So first of all, these books by Kennedy Ryan have just taken the world by storm, okay? But This Could Be Us in particular is about a single mom, Soledad, who goes through something traumatic, and she has to take care of all three of her children by herself with no income because she was a stay-at-home mom. So now she has to change it up, try to make money, and then also at the same time she wants to fall in love with herself. But then of course there's a male love interest as well. This book made me cry because as a single mom, I 100% connected with that, in the sense of I have to love me to be able to love my children. I have to love me to be able to love someone else, to be able to let someone else in my space. I have to be comfortable with me. And when you're thrown into being a single parent, like, that's hard. And it just made me just remember what that felt like. My kids are 13 and 11 now. So, and I think I think her oldest was like a teenager, but maybe like 13 or 14. Just being able to do that and like to come out on the other side, like successful and unscathed, that just gave me hope. That could give me joy. So they were almost happy tears. And I can't even remember the exact moment where I teared up, but this is the book. Like, I know there was a moment where I did tear up. If you haven't read This Could Be Us, this is a second book in an interconnected standalone series. There's the first book is Before I Let Go. Both of the books are really good. I would probably pick Before I Let Go for this category of crying, but I actually read that last year. So this one, yep. It's like, it's just very emotional. Like, just the feel of the book. It's an emotional book. And if you want to feel emotional, if you want to feel those feels, this is the book you're gonna pick up. I don't pick up books like this often. Matter of fact, contemporary romance is not one of my faves. I just like romance. I like to just have the romance and be happy about it and not cry. Book that made me happy was Where We Found Our Home by Natasha Bishop. Natasha Bishop is another one of those. I feel like she could also be another favorite new author for me. I did read I read my first Natasha Bishop this year in January. I read Only for the Week in January. And since then, I've read 3 books by her, and I have 1 more left to read. She only has 4 books, I believe, that she's written. So I feel like she's kind of a newer author, but I enjoy her writing very much. And this book, Where We Found Our Home, made me happy because the man in this book was willing to accept the female love interest for whatever she had to offer him, and they took their time. So I wouldn't even say it was a slow burn, because you knew that he was interested in her and she was interested in him. It's just that she had to figure out some stuff for herself. So he was just like, okay, well, I'll be your friend. And that made me so happy because he kept trying, he stayed present, he gave her time, and understood why she was hesitant. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was just, that's what made me happy about that book. You know, once again, we're living in this Delulu world, but I feel like those things are completely reasonable, and that you could do those in real life. So I feel like that also lent to why I liked the book, why I connected with it, why I enjoyed it, because it was realistic. It was realistic in the response of the man to the woman. You know what I mean? Like, it was just so good. It was just so good, and it so like ended up and wrapped up, and I feel like in a very good way. So that was a good book. Natasha Bishop, top tier. We're gonna have to add her. Another favorite new author for the year, Natasha Bishop, for sure. And the last question I have is most beautiful book that I bought this year. So I have 2. Black Candle Women by Diane Marie Brown. Like, can we just get into it? Get into it. Look how beautiful it is. The flowers, the colors, this purple, it's so beautiful. And then the black woman on the front, excuse me, just serving. They're serving. So this is like, yeah, this is one of the most beautiful books that I've purchased this year. I have not read this book yet. This is I think it's kind of a witchy book. It's about witches and family. It's about 330 pages. But that's beautiful. And then this book, Blood at the Root by Ladarian Williams. Like, how many books have handsome black men on them? Not many, but beautiful in the sense that it's art. It's art. I feel like books like this, like when you say that it's so beautiful, I feel like it almost has to be like a drawing or an animated cover, because real life isn't as perfection. Isn't perfection, isn't like just so like, okay, this is 100% perfect, because it's real life. You know what I mean? Like, nobody's face is 100% symmetrical type thing. But, oh, they both have candles on them? I don't know if they got the candle thing. This is also kind of like a witchy book. Something with like witches and spirits and something like that. So both of these books, beautiful cover buys. Well, at least this was a cover pickup, and then I read the inside of the book, and it kind of got me. This is actually, I think it's contemporary romance, because there is kind of like like a negative aspect to the romance. I think it's that as a woman in this family, you can't find love or something like that, or the person that you love dies, something terrible like that. And then this one, I just know that like he's in school and he's finding out about his magical heritage, basically. So both of those books, gorgeous. So that's all I have for this mid-year book update or reset or overhaul, or what can we call this? Mid-year book check-in. That's all I have for this check-in. I have been enjoying this whole like new booktube reading journey that I have been on, and it's been a good time. I've always been a reader. I've always been reading and collecting books and rereading. I feel like I did a lot of rereading when I was younger, because I didn't know how to find books that I would genuinely love and enjoy. And so that would just make me a little hesitant when like picking up a new book, because I'm just like, well, I don't want to waste my time to read this book and then hate it. So I've almost like been able to curate and my own like reading list, because I know what books I like and what I enjoy. And I'm also not afraid to DNF a book. If I'm not into it, I'm going to put it down. I've solved the DNFs probably about like 10 books this year that are just like sitting on my shelf or sitting in my library cart that I haven't finished. But then I know I want to finish, but it's almost like I need to be at the right time, or I just know that I don't want to DNF it. Like, it has potential. But also because of that, that means I usually only finish books that are like 3, 4, 5, like 5 stars, or 5 stars are rereads. That's it. But 3 and 4 star books mainly I'm only reading books that I love because I know what I like and what I don't like and what I'm looking for in a book. I've also like had in the past not read the conclusion of a series because I didn't like how the second book ended. Not afraid to do that either because it's just, there is time and investment in reading these books, and sometimes I just don't have time, so I'm not gonna like waste what I know that I'm not gonna like and just feel all the angst for no reason. Not gonna do that. And I also think that's why it takes me so long sometimes to like keep reading series. Like for example, The Children of Blood and Bone, Children of Virtue and Vengeance. I think the last book is Children of Angst, Anguish and Anarchy. That's the last book. And I'm really hesitant to read it because how the second book ended, it just it caught me off guard. And now I'm like nervous for the main characters, and it's too much emotion for me to go into the third book, so I need to chill. So I'll just wait a little bit and see if I can read it. But anyway, though, that's my mid-year book check-in. If you have a reading goal this year and you have just gobbled it up and you need to revamp, just go ahead and do it, okay? Go ahead and add those numbers, change your reading goal for the year. I feel like that also will help you get to the goal if you just say, okay, well, I'm gonna crush it, so let me just go ahead and extend the goalpost a little bit. Because I think that's fun too. That says that you are invested, you know? Thanks for watching this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you haven't seen my previous video of what I read for the last month, I will link that on the screen. And if you are interested in more bookish videos on productivity and just everyday life as a single mom, make sure you subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching the video, guys, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.